Hello everyone, TMMgamer here, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you another one of my FIFA 14 tutorials. Now this tutorial is going to be one where I just sit through a game with you, talk about what you need to be thinking of, and just generally talk you through the game so you have a greater understanding of what I think whenever I play a match. Now this is just, I think, a random online game, or it might be a league game. It's not a cup or anything. So let's begin to talk you through it. Now, the first thing I always look for whenever I'm joining a game is obviously your opponent. Now, my opponent's currently playing a 4-1-2-1-2 formation. It's a very, very common formation. You see a lot of people play this, and 4-1-2-1-2 is pretty solid, you know, but it does have a couple of weaknesses. Now, obviously in this formation, I'm playing a 4-3-3, and I think I'm playing the second iteration of 4-3-3 with a central attacking midfielder and two normal midfielders. And the major strength of my formation is width, you know, a lot of width, and that central attacking midfielder is very, very useful, you know, to get the ball down and begin to play. However, 4-1-2-1-2 has a central defensive midfielder, so no, you cannot just dink it into that space and guarantee that your player's going to get the ball. If you're playing, for example, a 4-4-2 with just a flat midfield, chances are 90% of the time you can just play pretty much a blind ball into that central attacking midfielder position, because you know that your opponent doesn't have a player in that area of the field. You know, that's a really bad challenge as well. How was that not a yellow card? But, you know, obviously in this game, you can't do that. So, that's firstly, the first thing you've got to match up. Think of how your formation matches up against your opponent. Now, what I'm looking to do in this game is try and pass a move, because I have more players in the midfield. I have 3 central midfielders to his 2. It's a very, very good thing. And don't forget, I have 2 wingers advanced up the pitch. You know, 4-1-2-1-2 tends to be a bit narrower than 4-3-3, so I can exploit the flanks as well. So, that's the first thing you need to look for whenever you get into a game. The second thing you need to look for is the weather conditions. Now, as you can see in this game it is currently snowing. Now, changes in weather really can change how you play, because the different physics involved. You know, whenever it's wet or snowy, the ball tends to skid off the turf more, you know, first touch tends to be a little bit worse, all of these sorts of things. For example, there, you saw that clearance, the ball skidded off the surface and trickled through very, very easily to the goalkeeper. So, you know, whenever you see a condition like this, when it's either snowy or rainy, bear that in mind. You know, you can't just play those diagonal balls into the channel and hope it stays in, because most of the time the ball will just trickle over. For example, you know, I tried that little dink there. In a dry day, it probably would have held up a little bit, because it skipped on. It just made it much easier for the defender. He was never going to get that. If you do want to play a lofted through ball, like the one I played there, you have to play it so it's either a yard in front of him or it's pretty much to his feet, so he can touch the ball without it hitting the turf. Because if it hits the turf, unless your guy's very, very quick, he's not going to get to it. So that's the second thing you need to be looking for. Make sure you fully understand how the weather conditions in your match will affect the style of play. So obviously, no lob through balls in, you know, just punted into the channel and to be chased after by a quick winger, because the ball will run away. And be a little bit more careful when you're doing passing in a confined space, because it just seems to me that whenever the physics are like this and whenever the weather's like this, players will have bad touches more often, and you result in you losing the ball more often. So perhaps you want to be a little bit more direct with your passing. Don't do lots of little tick-attacker stuff in and around the box. Try and 1-2 draw people out of position, get the ball into space and run. You know, keep it a little bit more simple until you find yourself more comfortable with the conditions and you get yourself into the game. So once you've made that initial assessment of the conditions and your opponent's formation and tailored your play accordingly, what you're looking to do then is the way your opponent's playing and see how you've started the game. Now, this has been a relatively tight start to the game. I probably should have scored a goal with the chip through to Lennon. He had a free header about, you know, 8 yards out, and it doesn't matter if it's Aaron Lennon. You know, you do back a professional footballer to score that sort of header. You know, if Aaron Lennon was jumping against a Mertesacker, it was unlikely that he was going to score. But free headers, you know, you probably should score those. But apart from that, it's been pretty tight and it's been in midfield. Another thing you do need to mention, you can just see at the moment, is it's slightly lagging. And this is what's going to punish me here. And you can see, boom, the goal there. You know, lag when you're defending is absolutely nightmarish. It's much better for it to lag consistently and a lot than it is to have sudden little spurts of lag. And that's what I had at that little part there. You know, I don't understand why it did this, because you saw for the first, like, you know, 5-10 minutes of this game, actually that's not even that long, we've been playing for about 4 minutes in this game, the connection was fine, and all of a sudden little stutters start to happen. You can see another one there. You know, this is really, really frustrating to deal with when you're trying to do anything more complicated, because if you're just playing long and direct, you can just lump that ball upfield. It doesn't matter if it's trying to lag a little bit or the connection's a bit dodgy. You can just put your foot through it and the result will be the same. If you're trying to time your jockey, or if you're trying to do nice pass and move, bad connection can really derail you, and this is something you've got to be paying attention to as well. If you see the connection's a little bit dodgy, try and just keep it simple. I mean, you can see what I'm trying to do here. I'm doing 1-2s, keeping the passing going, and then trying to work some people into space. And I didn't execute it particularly well there, but you do need to adapt to how the connection is doing, because FIFA, for some reason, 3-bar games are very often not 3-bar games. You'll have that 3-bar connection and then you'll lag throughout it. And if you play a 2-latency game, sometimes the connection is literally unstoppable. It just destroys you. And as you can see at the moment, I've suddenly gone into a little bit of a turtle mode. I've become a little bit too defensive, invited my opponent onto me, and Petr Cech's had to make a couple of really, really good saves to keep me in the game. This is a very, very dangerous tactic to do. You see some people, they get into a little bit of a rut in the game, and this is exactly what I've done here. I've conceded a goal. I'm perhaps a little bit frustrated because it was, started to lag when I was trying to defend, ballsed it up a little bit, and now I've lost my rhythm. After a pretty solid start, now I'm beginning to struggle a little. And what you're trying to do in this situation is keep it simple. Keep the ball, don't rush, don't panic. And this is exactly what I didn't do. You saw there, I tried to do a through ball that wasn't really on, and my opponent has punished me with a really nicely taken goal, you have to say. He got the block in. That's a good through ball, but what a good finish this is. Petr Cech, great keeper, had absolutely no chance for that particular goal. So this is now a nightmare scenario. However, as this little passage of play will show you, this is absolutely no reason to throw your toys out the pram and go mad. And just look at this goal here. I'm considering uploading that goal on its own and trying to enter it into a few goals of the week, because that is a really nice passive move. Slick little flicks, a back heel, first time dink through ball, and then Podolski with a really, really good finish. And this goal just goes to show you why you don't need to panic. I started the game well. I was pretty even with the guy. I created a good chance, which I really should have scored. He then took the lead through slightly dodgy defending caused by lag, and then a really well taken goal. So I haven't been outclassed by any stretch of the imagination. I've been playing pretty well, and as you can see here, Roberto Soldado equalises pretty much straight away. So I've gone 2-0 down, and now it's 2-2 pretty much 35-40 seconds after the second goal was scored by my opponent. And I'm now banging this game. I've played okay, slightly shaky 5-minute period, and then suddenly, boom, I'm right back in the game. And now all of a sudden, because I didn't go mad and I didn't try and do anything too ridiculous, I'm right back in it, and my opponent is absolutely shaking. And you can clearly see this through this little bit of play right here. He was really shoddy on the kickoff. He tried something absolutely ridiculous. He tried to just charge around the outside. Doesn't work 99 times out of 100. Gave it away, and in a nice slick passing manoeuvre by me and a great finish by Soldado, and all of a sudden from 2-0 down I've gone to 3-2. And this is exactly why I always say, don't panic, don't lose your temper, don't throw your toys out the pram, don't rage. Because if you do, you'll fall further and further behind. If you just stay on the ball and stay focused, you can get straight back into it. And you saw there, my opponent was rattled. First, again, off the kickoff, he did a 1-2, gave the ball straight away, and I really should score there to make it 4-2. I've got my opponent completely and utterly on the rack, and he is begging for the half-time whistle to go at this stage. And you can see what he's doing here as well. This is something I would definitely not recommend you guys to do. He's 3-2 down. He's just conceded 3 goals in, 2 minutes pretty much. He really on the back foot. He's given the ball away twice off kickoffs. Once I've scored and the other one I should have scored from. And he plays the ball short. Now in this scenario, he got away with it. But I was about 2 or 3 inches away from putting a tackle in there to put him under pressure again. If you're in this situation, don't do what he did. Just take a deep breath, take your time, and whack that ball upfield to a striker. It doesn't matter if you don't win the header. That little break will just relieve some of the pressure, and it will enable you to take a back seat, just chill out, and then resume again. So this guy was acting flustered, and he really could have been punished a lot more severely for it. And you see again here at the start of the second half, rash defending. He charged that fullback up. He could clearly see Patrice Evra making an overlapping run there. He could clearly see it. So any sensible defender would have kept himself back there, not lunged in, not really done anything too spectacular, just to, you know, marshal the play. You can clearly see he's still flustered because he barreled that fullback up, and it nearly cost him again. You know, he's giving me opportunities at the moment. So this is a really good example of someone who's pretty flustered. And in this situation, when you know your opponent's struggling, the thing you need to be very, very careful of is not to give him any free chances. You know, if you give your opponent a way back into the game, that will swing the momentum very, very firmly back to him. So what you're looking to try and do is just to try and starve him of goal-scoring opportunities. Now, you don't need to do anything too spectacular yourself. You don't need to go gung-ho and to try and score another goal. Just keep it nice and tight. And this is something I do really, really well in this game. You know, my defending for, I'd say, about 80 minutes of this game was very, very good. Just that one little bit of a problematic period and a few slight mistakes here and there. But this is why, you know, defending is so important. Because, you know, I've scored 3 very, very quick goals, and now my opponent is forced to attack me. And this opens up another strength of my formation, you know, the 4-3-3. 4-3-3, doesn't matter what iteration of formation you're using, it is absolutely tremendous at counter-attacking. And whenever you take the lead, you know, with this style of formation, this is the time you need to exploit this. So most of the time I either play on balanced or defensive. You know, I very, very rarely put it on attacking, because it tends to leave your midfield a bit too open, and really you can be just as effective with, you know, defensive or balanced play than you can attacking. But all I'm trying to do here is soak up pressure, you know, bring my opponent onto me and hit him on the counter attack. And you've seen there, you know, I've got up the field, perhaps my execution wasn't quite there, but the idea is definitely working. You see how I harass him again, win the ball, try and get it up the field as quickly as possible before he can regroup, and nearly again create a chance. Win the ball back, try and get it, you know, moving quickly before he can regroup. Again, slightly dodgy execution of the pass from Soldado there. But you need to have a game plan in this sort of situation. You know, you're ahead in the game. Don't give your opponent anything. Just stay nice and tight at the back. Don't lunge in. You see here with Patrice Evra, I track the run, I win the ball back. You know, I could have tried to put a challenge in there, but if I would have missed it, it would have given him a free route behind my back four, and you never know, with the way headers are in FIFA 14, he might have scored a header and suddenly he was back level. You know, it's much more important in this situation just to stay calm. And eventually, you know, you'll start to create chances. You can see again, another bit of good counter-attack play, get a shot on target. And you know, this is why it's so important to have multiple styles of play. If you can pass a move, if you can defend solidly, and if you can counter-attack, you're going to be set up against the vast majority of opponents. Because there are very, very few opponents who can deal with all of those situations. And this guy, you can see, he certainly can't. You know, that... Just going to quickly on a little aside there, that is the only time you can do a lob through ball in these sort of conditions. You know, I hit it with a very, very low pace into a massive area of space, and you saw there, I was actually trying to hit that ball for the forward who was running through, and because it was snowy, the ball skipped on and it ended on going to my winger beyond. So you saw the weather conditions in effect there. But because I had that extra guy running beyond, the skip didn't matter and I still got it and I put the cross in. So, you know, that's the only time you can do a lob through ball into a lot of space with no opponents behind, and make sure you underhit it. It's much more important to underhit it than overhit it. You know, always err on the side of caution in these sorts of weather conditions. And all of a sudden, you can see I've completely turned it around. You know, I'm 4-2 up, and at this stage I'm beginning to showboat. As you can see, nice little bit of skill from Coutinho, and he forces a great save from the keeper. So again, in this situation, you know, you're 2 goals to the good. The last thing you want to do is give him anything easy. You know, this game is pretty much sewn up now. As long as I don't do anything stupid, I will back myself to beat this guy. And you just need to look at the goals I've conceded, and I'll go back and mention this again. 2 goals I conceded. One was just a very, very good finish when I was flustered, and the first one was from a little bit of lag and a slightly bit of dodgy defending. When I've been on the ball and been focusing, my opponent hasn't had a single major chance all game. You know, I've kept him out pretty much from the word go, apart from that little dodgy period when I was flustered in and around the lag and the goal. So just don't make any silly mistakes. You know, you are 2-0 up, but that doesn't mean you can start doing kick-ups with your back four and trying to dribble past with your goalkeeper. You know, Ultimate Team, especially, but FIFA in general, it is so easy to score goals. I mean, you saw that. I scored 3 goals in about 2 minutes with, 3 moves, and I should have scored another goal straight after with Aaron Lennon. So I could have very, very easily scored 4 goals in 5 in-game minutes. So if you give your opponent even the slightest chance, he might take it. And then all of a sudden, with 10 minutes to go, he's only 1 goal behind. And that's a bit of a problem. I mean, you saw there, if I'd have done something stupid and given a goal up earlier, and then he would have had that chance and scored, all of a sudden it's 4-all, and I've thrown away a 2-goal lead like this guy did earlier in the game. So having match sense and understanding what you need to do in a situation is definitely worth it. Just always err on the side of caution. I know this sounds, it could be construed as being negative, but it absolutely isn't. I'm not saying just camp on the edge of your penalty area with 11 players behind the ball and play exceptionally negative. I'm just saying that you shouldn't give your opponent any freebies. It's very, very easy to score in FIFA as it is. Your opponent doesn't need any help. Don't give him any, and I was really disappointed with that. Done well with Podolski, put a challenge in, darted down the line, and just as I was about to cross it to the 3 guys in the area to get hopefully a goal, what happened? He pulls his hamstring. Absolutely tremendous work, Lucas. And you can see here again, the lags returned late on. I have no idea why, because for the vast majority of the game, the connection was flawless. There was no problem whatsoever. And all of a sudden, his brother must have gone on the internet, or they started downloading something, and it's gone a bit dodgy. So once again, lag mode on. Keep things simple. Little ball down the channel, put the cross in. Don't do anything too cute. Don't do anything too cheeky. Win the header, try and make space, get the shot off. Shot was terrible, doesn't matter. This is the sort of thing you just concentrate on the weather conditions, understand your opponent's formation, understand how your opponent's feeling, and if you pay attention to what he's doing and the passes he plays, and whether he's shooting from 45 yards or whatever, you can understand how he's feeling a little bit. Try and match his patterns of play, try and be as solid as you can defensively, and at the end of the day you'll come out with a lot more victories like this. And this was a really, really good win. I was very, very pleased with this because this guy was pretty similar to me in ability wise. We were really tight at the start of the game, but I was switched on, I focused, I didn't make any stupid errors apart from that 5-minute period. I was ruthless when I had chances, and I managed to defend well and shut him out when he had the ball. So guys, really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, running you through what I'm thinking and what I'm trying to do when I'm playing a game of FIFA. Hope you've learned something, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.